change our forms. In the past, we say I swam. Okay, form changes for different tenses. I kick, then I kicked, so the form changes for different tense. So in the future, sometimes that form will change. Sometimes, sometimes it'll change more than others, and we will look at all that. But in Greek, okay, I said this. Future tense describes an action that will occur in the future. The aspect is largely undefined. Okay.
Interesting.
So, future active tense stem. Notice we're not in the present tense stem. We have a future active tense stem. Remember, the stem is the most basic form of a word in a particular tense. Okay? Yes, Luke?
Just a quick question. You said the aspect is largely undefined. Does that mean that it's not even in a continuous sense in the future?
Say that again, Luke.
No, aspect is just not going to be a significant value in the future tense.
Okay.
It just doesn't have significant value. Okay? So it's not really well defined,
Okay.
It's not like you can say, well, the future tense always sort of views an action in this way. It just doesn't have much value for aspect.
Okay.
Its main value is just time to denote that something's going to happen in the future.
All right.
Okay? Now, the
Wait.
future...
Wait. I'm not trying to be funny. That conversation between Luke, the question Luke asked, I didn't quite understand what he asked. And I definitely didn't understand what you were explaining back to me. So
Yeah.
y'all kind of,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be funny. He said something I thought that raised my ear.
He was saying, so there's no continuous kind of progression in action in the future, like I will be studying.
Okay.
Like we had with the present tense, we talked about things where you could have a I serve, and it really means I have been serving and am serving now. Right? Like a continuous action in the present tense. The future tense really doesn't comment on that sort of continuous action. The main value of the tense is time to tell you that it's happening in the future. It doesn't really care about the kind of action, whether it's ongoing or not.
Yeah.
That's that issue. So remember the tense stem. Now, future tense stem, sometimes it'll be the same. So like with luo, what do you see there? Well, that's the same stem in the future. So we didn't have to change stem. So sometimes the stem will be different, sometimes it'll be the same. Here with luo, the future tense stem is actually the same. And here we have a connecting vowel and the primary active personal endings, but we just have one extra thing. It's very similar to the present tense. It's just we have a tense formative that just tips us off and says future tense.
Right.
And that's it. It's pretty genius, really. It's just the sigma.
Nice.
So instead of luomen, we are loosing, it's loosomen. We will loose. Loosomen.
That's so cool.
Sigma's my
You see
best
how
friend
that
right
you see
now.
how that works? It's just a sigma that you put in there. It's very similar to that present tense. So, luso, luses, luce, lusamen, luceta, lususen. I mean,
I wish I could say that stuff.
that is not bad. That is not bad, man. Future tense, it's going to be pretty easily identified because you're going to work from the end of the verb. And you're going to say, oh, there's primary active ending right there, lues. And we're going to go back from it and we're going to hit, we hit a sigma. Whoa, we hit a sigma. I wonder if this is a future.
Yeah,
All right? And we get back to the stem, and we see it's from the word luo, and we say, oh, yeah, the stem is lu on this verb. I know that. I know luo. And that sigma is the future tense formative, so it's future tense. Luse. He will loose. Okay? Now, here's the great part. You don't really have to worry. The sigma guards that stem, okay? It seals that stem up tight. So you don't have any contraction. The connecting vowel just lengthens.
All right.
Or the stem vowel, just lengthens. Sorry about this one, but you see what happens. Agapeso, poieso, pleiroso. Yeah? So it just lengthens on a contract verb. We don't have to worry about contraction.
The diamond.
Yeah,
here is-
sorry.
Okay.
I don't know.
It's supposed to be
No.
Yeah, it's supposed to be an accent.
an accent.
Okay.
It's supposed to be an accent.
Just checking to see if you're paying attention.
Yeah.
Womp womp. I don't know how to fix that particular one because that's Mounce's font, and I don't type in Mounce's font. He uses a weird font. I'll fix that later. Okay. Now, what's this?
Square of
This.
stars.
I heard some gasps.
Oh.
It's hot in here, isn't it? It's hot.
I got the first one right.
I heard some gasps.
Yeah.
And basically, it's the square of stops all over. Now, why would we be talking about the square of stops? Well, because we have a sigma now.
Of course.
What's important here is that we have a sigma as a tense formative. So remember how with the third declension, sometimes we added a sigma to a stem, and we got sarc
Strange
plus
things
sigma, we got
happen.
sarcs.
Yeah.
Well, some similar things are going to happen with verbs. We add a sigma to the stem of verbs, and sometimes if a verb has a certain consonant, it will behave in a certain way. Okay? So, for instance, what page is that square of stops on?
161.
161.
So if you have blepo in the future, that blep plus the sigma is going to become blepso. Do you see that? Grapho is going to become grapso. Grapho is I write. Grapso is I will write. Okay? So the sigma is still there. It's just hidden. It's been absorbed in the square of stops stuff. Okay? That's not too bad. So the point is, if you see this C or XC or something like that, then it should tip you off. Okay? You'll probably know, well, that stem probably had a labial, like a P beta phi in it or something like that. And then, if you have a stem like baptizo, the stem is baptid, and it drops off, so it's baptizo. So you'll still see the sigma, but yeah, it ends in that sigma there. You kind of have to know the stem. So here is the. I know it's kind of the end of the day, whatever, but I want you to tune in just for a minute. This is where we're going. What's going to happen here is that Mounce is going to start, laying it on you with verbs, okay, in the next chapter. Now, we're not doing the next chapter this week. We're doing it next month. But I don't want you, some of it is kind of foundational, right? And it gives you a good idea of where you're headed. So it's useful stuff to know for the next month. And so this, like we said, sometimes you got a future tense, you got a present tense. Sometimes those tense stems are the same, like with luo. Okay, you got a present tense stem, you got a future tense stem, and they're the same. Okay? Sometime, how do verbs form tenses? Well, sometimes they use different tense stems in the present and the future. Okay? And we're going to divide some of those up into like a pattern 1 and patterns 2 to 4. Okay? Some use the same, some use different. Now, pattern 1, where they use the same stems, okay? Mounce is going to divide up into different kinds of verbs. He's going to give you contract verbs, which you've already seen. He's going to give you roots that end in a stop, okay? So sometimes the stem, blep, is actually the same, okay? It's just going to look different, okay? So this is one of the types of a pattern 1 verb where the stems are the same, okay? It's a different category because they kind of come out different. So he kind of categorizes verbs, okay? Roots ending in iota or upsilon, and right now those aren't important, but they'll come into play later, okay? But these are his categories, okay? Now, all of those, you see here, same as this. That asterisk means stem. Well, yeah, well, for now, yeah. So, same. That's good. Now, this is sort of 7 Greek tenses. I mean, he puts he sort of divides between active and passive here. But here's what's going on. Agapao, we know that. I love, right? Okay? Here's one that we're learning now. Agapeso, with the sigma. I will love. Now, there are some other forms, but what I want you to notice is this. You see this? Got.
Yeah.
Okay? You got kind of a root. You've got a verbal root that's sort of underlying all of these forms. Okay? And that root, okay, think about it as a level, just another level deeper. The root. Where's the stem on plant? The stem is above ground, right? But that root, it goes all the way down, below ground. And that's where we're going with root right now.
Whoa, that's deep.
Okay, so it's all the way down. So it's different. The root is the most basic form of a word, period. The most basic form of a word is the root. Okay? The stem is the most basic form of the verb in a particular tense. We talk about tense stems. Luo, luso, those are tense stems. Okay? But here's the trick. The tense stems they all come from the root. Man, from the root. Now, why is this important? Because a lot of people, what they see is they see lu in the present, and then they see luso in the future. And they think, oh, well, that future tense looks like it's formed on the present tense stem. No, it's not. Do you get what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
Some people will look at that future and they'll think, oh, it looks a lot like the present. The future is probably formed on the present tense. No. Where's the future stem come from? It comes from a level deeper. It comes from the root, man. It goes all the way back to the root. And sometimes, I mean, where's the present tense stem come from? It comes from the root too. But let's just say, sometimes that present tense is going to look weird. Okay? And if you're in the future and you're saying, well, how can I find that future looks different from that present? But how can it be formed from that present? I don't get it. Well, that's because the present form is not what the future uses. The future goes back to the root just like the present goes back to the root. All right? That's where we're at. So you got luo in the present. It gets its stem from the root. Luso gets its stem from the root. And elusa in the aorist gets its stem from the root too. Okay? And sometimes they're going to be the same, but sometimes they're going to be different. And Joseph Smith, okay, not this Joseph Smith, asked a question earlier about those forms in the vocabulary. Remember? Yep. He asked, what are those forms in the vocabulary? There gives us like 6 forms. Those forms are different tense stems. Those are forms of the first singular in different tenses. But it shows you sort of how the tense stems sort of work through the tenses. Okay. Now, what you'll see as we go along is that some of those look very different. Sometimes the present tense stem will be formed differently than just a regular old luo, right? Where it's the same from luo, luso. You know, the stem in the present tense will be modified. And what will be good to know is what the root is, because that is where we go back in every tense. Like the future tense, it'll be formed on the root. So I'll show you. We go back to the same thing. And here, it's not just the present and future stems that we're talking about that are the same. They're the same for a reason. They are formed, they're the same because they're the same as the root. Basically, no modification has happened to the root when we go to the present tense of luo and the future tense of luso. Now, if you look, that's on page 161 of hold on just a second. Here we go. If you go to page 173, that will just give you a preview. On page 173, it says STEM changes. Okay? All I want you to see there is that often the future tense will look different because the stem is different. So the first word is apostello, and we know apostolos, right? It's apostle. Apostello, it means I send. So it's from the same kind of, apostolos is a sent one. Okay? Apostello means I send. An apostle is a sent one. Okay, so that's easy to remember. But the present tense is apostello with 2 lambdas. Okay? You see that?
Mm-hmm.
And in the future, we look at it and we say, oh, well, that looks weird. It's only 1 lambda. How did we get there? Well, guess what, folks?
The double lambda.
Star, when Mounts gives you the vocab, he will give you star for the root. And the root is single lambda apostel. Now, from the root, from that deep root, you get a present tense. But guess what happens? Something funky happens. And in the present tense, that doubles for some reason. Okay, so what you need to know when you're doing the future, okay, is that when you're doing the future, it goes back to this root and isn't formed from the present. Okay? Now that is big picture, and we're going to get to more of that in chapter 20 next month. But for the next little while, that gives you the kind of just space to grow. Okay? So don't worry if that's foggy. This bit you won't be tested on, but I want you to know in your vocab, okay, that's the point. On vocab for chapter 19,
All stars are roots.
yeah, you see the stars?
Yep.
Anybody see asterisks?
Asterisks, yep.
Okay, that's what those are. When he gives you the asterisk, he's giving you the root, all the way down to the root. Okay? And all our tense stems will be formed on that root. All right.
Makes sense.
That, the nouns, that's the stem, that asterisk. When we were studying back in the, that's, the
Yeah.
asterisk means stem. When we get to verbs, it
It's
means
the roots.
I can appreciate, the sort of being upset with the terminological confusion. I don't know why Mounts, he says
That is
stem
true.
for a noun, but yeah, that's right. Yeah, for a noun, he uses asterisk for a stem. But there's not necessarily, honestly, here, let me give it to you like this. In some cases, he's not really messing you up. He gives you the stem of the noun, but is there still something below the stem? There's still a root. So, what's that tell you? That maybe apostolos, okay, at some level down in the roots, is linked with the root apostello, okay, by sin. Okay, there's still sort of, a lot of nouns are sort of connected to verbal roots, okay? So you can think about it like that. So we look at the noun stem, we usually don't go deeper, but there is a deeper root, and sometimes the noun shoots up out of that root, and it's a verbal, usually a verbal root, yeah.
Nice.
Man, I'm rocking with analogies today, right?
Nice.
Anyways, not just future active, guys. We're going to go future middle.
Do you want us to first focus on the root or the gap?
No, not for the vocabulary. You don't need to focus on it for the vocabulary. It will help you to look at it now and say, oh, I wonder, is this form the same in the present tense? If you see a root that looks really different, and it's like, well, baptizo in your vocabulary, or what do you have here?
There's a letter on this basileus.
Basileus.
I haven't seen it.
Ah, yes, there is. There's a Greek letter. Yeah. What is that Greek letter?
Oh, good
That's
point.
called a digamma.
Digamma.
Go figure.
Wow.
It's a letter that dropped out of the Greek alphabet on the end of basileus. It's on page 164.
Interesting.
The word is king, basileus, and the stem, you'll notice, has a letter at the end that is a digamma. And you don't need to know that. Mounts gives it to you because it tells you some things about how the word forms in different ways. That's all.
So they
That's
dropped
all.
that letter out of it.
Yeah, it dropped out.
So that's how king.
This is the last thing for the day, right here, the middle. So we did future active, and it's the same stuff, but guys. Future active takes the primary active endings o, ace, a, amineta, usi. The passive, or the middle, the future middle, just takes the primary passive personal endings. Those my, side, tie, meta, este, untie. Okay? There.
These active, these aren't.
These are deponent, okay? So they're middle in form. Perusomai.
Perusomai.
Okay, I will go. So these are actually all active in meaning. You don't have to worry. The future, we'll deal with deponents for now. But this is the form of the future middle. And so words like peruamai, they take a future form. They'll often be, deponent as well in this form. So I will go. Now, just because peruamai, I go, is deponent in the present, doesn't mean that it's going to be deponent in the future, but often it is.
Okay.
But we'll see some later where,
It's good to know.
the first one is, the present tense is not deponent, the future
Future
is. Sometimes
tenses
it'll be
are
different, but
always deponent.
here's a me. We saw this in a translation, I think, yesterday or something, but it's the future of a me.
Just because.
And so it's esomai, esse, estai, so you see the my, side, tie, meta, este, untie, even in a me, so this is actually pretty regular. It's just got this s sort of root on it, so esomai, esse, estai. I will be, you will be, he, she, it will be, okay? Here's your chart at the end on page 164. We're filling it in, guys. Okay? And the only difference here with the future middle, okay, we got a tense formative, we got a connecting vowel, and we just have active and passive endings. Here we go. This is it, guys. You ready?
Ready. Do it.
Cross kuneses. It's your last vocabulary
Cross
word. Cross
kuneses.
kuneo. Guys, this
Cross.
is a beautiful word.
Cross.
Kuneo means to kiss. And pros means to kiss towards. And what's its
You don't even think
definition?
about it,
What's its definition?
I worship.
I worship. Oh,
Like blowing kisses of
I
God.
kiss towards. I worship. Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, obviously the image there is of bowing, right?
To kiss the
But,
signet ring.
to kiss towards, but it's a beautiful word, man. And proskuneses. That's recognizable. That's easy. It's not hard. Luo, luace, lue.
Lord.
You.
God.
Second person singular. Kahala. Remember that chart we looked at? That first one with the luo, luace, lue? That's that ace. And so we look at that chart, and that's how we know that ending, ace, is the second person, which is you. Instead of I or he, she, it, it's you. And then we go back further, yeah, and we see a sigma. So it's you will worship.
Yeah. You kiss and you will.
Proskune, sigma,
Will worship God.
tense formative with ending.
Lord your God.
And it's a contract verb, so the vowel lengthens before the sigma. Now, you will worship the Lord your God, or thou shalt worship the Lord your God.
Both are correct, right?
Yeah, that's just the old King James for you. Thou shalt.
Would it be thy God if you're gonna do thou shalt?
I guess so. Thou shalt worship the Lord thy God. Very good. So, hey Gune. Hey Gune. Yeah? Genese.
Oh, man.
Genese.
Give birth to.
What do we? Yeah, give birth. Good.
Okay.
Genao. You hear the word generation? Genne, right? Generation.
Say.
Genao.
Say.
That's easy. I beget. I give birth to. So genese. We got that future sigma, that tense formative in there. And what? Somebody parse genese.
We say. Oh.
Person and number.
Third person plural.
Well, O, lu, ace, lu, a. So third person.
Single.
Future.
Yeah, so it's third person singular and then future.
Future.
And it's an active
Future
ending.
singular.
Okay? It's one of the primary active endings, so it's future active indicative. And yeah, so then kaleses. Okay, kaleses.
Future.
Yeah, it's future.
Second person
So
singular.
from the end, we're going to see the ending first.
Yeah.
So we're going to automatically know luo, luate, second person singular,
Future.
future, active indicative, because this is an active ending. So the sigma tells us it's future. The ending tells us it's second person singular. Okay? And the ending also tells us that it's active, right? Because this is an active ending. So, kaleses. You might be wondering why the vowel, stem vowel, doesn't lengthen there. That's because with kaleo, it doesn't. There used to be another letter there. Okay? I think it was a digamma, actually. So, it doesn't lengthen. Anyways, that's the story.
We're sticking to it.
Kaleses and gena say. And yeah, so I said that.
Gave
Kaleo
birth.
doesn't lengthen. So, what is it?
Birth.
Your wife Elizabeth.
Elizabeth gave
Your
birth.
wife Elizabeth will bear
Your son.
to you
Son.
a son, and you will call his name John.
His name.
Your wife
Okay.
Elizabeth
His name. Yeah. His name. John.
will bear to you a son, and you will call his name John. See the mount? Will bear you a son? Sure. As long as it means a similar thing, the order doesn't necessarily matter, right? Will bear you a son, will bear a son to you. Ah, I see that there will be boats on the sea. That's quite a prediction, isn't it? I see that there will be boats on the sea.
Well, if it's the brazen sea of the temple, perhaps not.
Blepo.
I mean, what do we got here? We got I see, we got that,
Blepo.
we got there will be. How do we say I see?
Blepo.
Blepo. That's easy. That's a lexical form. First person singular, present, I see, blepo. Now, how do we say that?
One of those.
Hati. Hati, probably to hear that. So I see that. Do we have a hati clause? The hati clause. I see the hati. I see the hati. I see that.
I see that.
I see that hati. Nice. Now, what about there will be? I think we're going to use a form of the to be verb.
Yeah.
And in our chapter, we learned the future. It's S epsilon sigma with those endings. So there will be, it needs to be third person plural because
Stay.
boats, it's sort of, boats will be.
Stay.
Third person plural, boats will be, right? So essentai,
Essentai.
people looking at it,
Essentai.
Amy to essentai. That's in your book, your chart for Amy. That would be a good one to, commit to the old memorandum thing. Commit to memory. Or at least just know that it, is regular. It takes those endings and you just put it on S and you get it. So what about boats? I think we just learned ployon.
Ploy.
What is it? Ployon?
Ployon.
That's a weird word.
Ploy whatever.
You play on the boat, it's easy.
You ploy on the boats. You ploy on
Like
the
an
boats.
Irish word, deploy.
Oh, you
Ploy.
ploy on the boats.
Yeah.
So,
Voice.
what is it? Ploy on ploya?
Ploy ois.
Ploya.
Really?
Yeah, ploya with an alpha because it's neuter.
Oh.
And it's gonna
Yeah.
be plural,
That's
so
right.
it's ploy
Of course.
ah. And then on the sea,
Got a little neuter.
on the sea, how can we say upon the sea?
Yes.
We could say in the sea or we could say upon the sea.
We better say on, because if they're in the sea, they're submarines.
Yeah, if they're in the sea, that's,
Who would want to be in a song?
yeah, so
This
we
guy.
have a
This
preposition.
guy.
Epi, yeah, epi is a good one for this.
Epi, like the epidermis.
Epi, upon, with what,
The lacy.
with what case? Probably genitive?
Epi for upon.
Yeah, actually, you know what? It can actually mean upon with multiple cases. I think that it can mean upon with the data change. Yeah, so the genitive,
Genitive's probably better though, because it's
Genitive's-
on over.
yeah.
Whereas,
So epi, tes, thalases, the sea, on the sea. See what we did there?
Okay.
Let's see if we can, what do we got? Lepo, I see that boats will be, there will be boats upon the sea. We get our grave
Thalas.
accents right? Yeah, we did. Okay? At the end of a word, if it's followed by an accented word, that acute has to switch to a grav there.
With as much fun as I've had trying to put the Greek back into English, would that be read as decent Greek, even though it's written basically in English order?
No, in fact, some of them I have a different one where, the order might be different. This, the hati would almost always follow, right? That this and be a complete clause without anything intervening. So you couldn't have anything before the hati that went with this verb. Okay, the hati is what's called a clause boundary. It
Okay.
kind of guards its stuff. So if you put this over here, it could modify this verb. I see there will be boats on the sea. You would have to be sort of seeing on the sea or something. I don't know what it would be, but this is a clause boundary. So yeah, this order is okay. I see that. You could put this anywhere. I mean, you could put this. You could probably put this at the end. That's probably how it would be. In Greek, you'd probably have a boats on the sea will be verb at the end. That's probably how it'd be. Anyways.
Is that- I can figure out the mind of it.
In Romans 9:22,
Cross Roman.
okay, I'll just show you.
What?
922.
We need to figure out verbs, guys. Oh. What if God, although willing to demonstrate his wrath and make his power known, endured with much patience vessels of wrath prepared for destruction? Prepared. what if that was the passive voice? If it's the passive voice, the vessels are prepared for destruction. Who has prepared them for destruction?
The Lord God.
God has prepared them. But if this is a true middle, who has prepared them for destruction?
They themselves.
They have prepared themselves for destruction. You have got to learn Greek verbs so you can figure out which one this is. Because that, my friends, is a theological difference.
Of major proportions.
God has prepared them, or they have prepared themselves. That is what's at stake between the middle and the passive.
But ultimately, he allows them to do it anyway.
So,
Yeah, but you got
That
double or
one-
single predestination.
that one, do you know who John Chrysostom is?
Yes, one of my faves.
What language did he read the New Testament in?
He read it in his native Greek,
And they argued about this,
big time.
whether it was middle or passive. They argued about this.
Can we have the arrangement?
They wanted to know which was which, man. And I want to know too. And the only way to find out is to press on with Greek verbs.
Go challenge
I'm a
him.
Calminian, so it doesn't matter to me. It's both.
It's both?
It's both. I'm a
It
Calminian.
can't be both.
I'm a Calminian.
Can't be both
It
middle
could-
and passive.
You are if you're a Calminian.
Maybe
But,
that's the reason it was so late. in time.
There could be an ambiguity in the verse that's intended. You could argue that.
Okay.
But it can't be both
Okay, I'll do
at
that.
the same time. Now,
No say ambiguity.
so, let's just look. Therefore also God highly exalted him, and bestowed on him the name which is above every name, that at the name of Jesus every knee should bow, of those who are in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and that every tongue should confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of the Father. Now, what has happened here is that this is Isaiah 45. And Paul is quoting it.
Nice.
Okay? But he changes it around. He doesn't quote it verbatim. In fact, he changes some of the verbs around to make it, to turn it into a hina clause. Make it a hina clause. Where is the hina clause?
Verse 10.
In order that.
In order that.
Why did God exalt Jesus? In order that. And then he quotes Isaiah. Okay? So he turns Isaiah into a purpose clause. So no longer is it a prophecy about whether something will happen in the future. Every tongue will confess one day, every tongue will bow. Now he's turned it into the intention of God behind Christ's exaltation. Was this prophecy? I mean, he can't not know what Isaiah is prophesying. He's prophesying that every knee will bow before the one God. Right? The one God. And what is the name of the one God? What's the name of the one God?
In Isaiah or here?
Kurios.
In Isaiah.
Kurios, Lord, right?
Yahweh.
I don't.
Right, so if you're thinking in Hebrew, it's Yahweh, but for Paul, who reads the Septuagint, it's Kurios.
Mm-hmm.
He knows Hebrew too.
Yeah.
For other Christians, let's say, it's Kurios, even in Isaiah. Right?
True.
And so then,
True.
that every tongue should confess that Jesus Christ is Kurios. Wow. I mean, basically, yeah, either he's sort of really misunderstood the Old Testament, or I mean, he's claiming that Jesus Christ is the one true deity. Right?
If Paul got it wrong, we're really in
Neither one of
trouble.
them
Yeah,
will make
that's
you
funny.
better, so-
But the trick is that he's taken this passage and he's turned it into the intention. It's no longer just a prediction that this will happen. It's the intention of God behind Christ's exaltation that this happen, that Jesus Christ will be confessed as
Nice.
Lord, which is pretty good stuff.
Nice.
Anyways, I'll leave you with that. Let's pray and then let's go.